The idea of knowledge and what it takes to actually attain knowledge, true knowledge in the real sense of the word, have, been a cause for real-time conversations for real. What is, we are told, is regardless of whether this is known or whether it's not known. What is not, no matter how you try, still remains what it's not. And it leaves the question as to how we come to claim to know the things we tend to know. We make categorical statements about facts, about reality sometimes that is not true. Take, for instance, in 2022, I was in a very serious dilemma, caught up between different narratives about my person and the different forms of and shades of what would pass down to be the scale at which my integrity will be measured by, probably by some circumstances that also happened in the month of April of that same 2022. What those who stood and pontificated over my matter didn't realize is the fact that all what they postulated was not really the case. It was not the truth about the reality of events that have happened, but then they hold on to this, and up till now, most of them still hold on to it like farewell hugs, and then they tend to call them truths. And whether they will ever come to know the truth of the events of such years of such a period in my life is still something that is left for them and their own sense of, what they now call the truth of probably what must have happened in the month of April of 2022 in my life. But we leave that. Here we are to talk about the idea of truth in relation to the categorical statements placed by Pastor Enenche of Dunamis Church. It was a categorical statement. I struggled to watch that video. I struggled a whole lot. It was a video that, I couldn't just come around watching. What he said were categorical statements. She's lying. Get her out of the altar. And here we do not do stuff like that. I think he was more of the opinion and coming from the angle that, trying to proceed to the fact that in his church, fake miracles are not condoned, fake testimonies are not given. But it begs the question also, what is it with the problem of testimony? What is it with testimony? The information the woman presented in the church yesterday shouldn't be begging for testimony, shouldn't be begging for a miracle. That's not a miracle. I salute her resilience as an elderly woman wanting to go to school and wanting to do all that, but this is not a miracle. It goes a long way to tell of our reality as a people. You can take this from different angles, but I'm taking this from the angle of the fact that most things people come to church to testify as claims for miracles, as claims for testimonies, it shouldn't be in the first place. Yes, she is an adult who strived and then attained the academic height and the educational qualifications she has come to attain, but is that a miracle? Should that be a miracle? Shouldn't that be a point of laughter for us as a country? That people would still come to lay claims to miracles and lay claims to answered prayers for things as easy as going to school. Things so basic in the world, in the 21st century. People are still laying claims to treatable diseases. People are still giving undue recognition for things that can basically be done. Calling God and making him look as though he's jobless. We make God look so jobless in Nigeria, as though he doesn't probably have anything to do with his time. So he cures malaria, he cures typhoid, he cures mosquito bites, he cures polio, he cures a whole lot of things that we as a people can use our God-given sense to come to achieve. And then back on the issue of emotional intelligence, the man of God lacks, or I don't want to say lacks, at the moment, he displayed his ignorance in a whole lot of stuff. Probably you might want to give him justification as to maybe how the woman spoke and all that. But I tell you, stage fright is something that is so real. It is something that everybody should give attention to. Not everybody have the courage to speak in open. Not everybody have the courage to speak in such a large crowd of people. And he tried, doing or trying to bring about, damage control in his church and all that. And he ended up letting himself into a serious ditch and a serious pit. And that's reality for you. It doesn't respect anybody. What is, what is not is not. And Pastor Enenche goofed. Unapologetically, he goofed. I can just imagine what the woman must have been going through walking from that stage down. If what she came there to say was actually a lie, at least the narrative wouldn't have been like this. People would have still trolled her. So it falls on him to, do the right thing. He owes her not just an apology, but he owes himself a break. These people we see as men and women of God displaying their ignorance almost every Sunday and almost every week in our Nigerian churches, and not just that, in churches in Africa, in churches across the world also, begs the question, why can't we just make peace with our little sense of uncertainty? Why do you want to know what will happen tomorrow? If you know what will happen tomorrow, what becomes of tomorrow? I tell you, I've made peace with uncertainty, because if I get to know that in 10 years' time I will become a professor, by all means I will still become a professor. Do you think I want to read? Do you think I want to study as I am studying? It reduces the level of our lives going forward. I'm not saying we should just sit down and relax and not try to make our lives better, but I am saying what he did yesterday was not necessary. There were better ways to confirm that. These are men and women of God in their different churches. When testimonies align with what people probably would come to believe, they come to hold these things as true. The same Pastor Enenche, as of recent events in his church, have been, being dragged for different stuff, for holding clutches that we don't know the bearers of such clutches. The same pastor was involved in the kidney saga that recently was debunked and all that. So I understand also his own sense of trying to vindicate himself, but he did that to the detriment of a woman who probably must have held him in high regard, probably must have, attributed whatever God she is worshipping to the God of Pastor Enenche. Like some persons hold the whole image of the God of Moses, the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So also this woman was holding, the God of Pastor Enenche. And look at how it ended up. And he just coming out to say there is nothing like bachelors of law also comes down to, say that we as humans are limited in our forms of knowledge. The whole idea of a bachelor's in law didn't start yesterday, after he must have made that derogatory statement and must have humiliated that woman beyond telling and all that. It's been there before now, but probably it's not in the know. It points to the fact that we all cannot be custodian of all forms of knowledge. We should be limited. It calls to the fact that he would have verified before coming out to say what she said. But no, he just throwed the woman and then said, tell her to leave the altar, and then came out and with a strong expression on his face, categorically wrote her off. But was the woman lying? No. Was the woman saying the truth? Yes. Was her program marked as a bachelor's in law? Yes. Is she a graduate? Yes. Was her communication skills and form of expression in the church well comprehended? No. Is stage fright a thing and a reality for people? Yes, of course. Should the case have turned better that yesterday? Yes. Did it turn better? No. Did the pastor mess up? Yes. What about the mental health of the woman? It has to be checked. She has to be examined. She has to be given proper attention. Enough of, God will use this to vindicate her. God will use this to raise her. No, she was messed up mentally. I can only imagine if that was my mom walking down that stage, or if that was myself. I would have just prayed, let the ground open and let me just enter inside. And I guess she must have gone back to sit and then sat also still in the church and waited for the service to be completed. And the video was posted. It goes to say a whole lot of things. So, dear Nigerians, dear Africans, dear global citizens of our world, as we continue to struggle with a whole sense of uncertainty, we should know and come to accept the reality of the fact on ground that we cannot know all. And it is not me saying we shouldn't strive after knowledge, we shouldn't strive after truth. I am just saying we cannot know all. We cannot have it all. We should be slow in taking decisions. We should be very, very slow. St. Thomas Aquinas will say, seldom affirm, never deny, always distinguish. This is what would see to it that we go far. What the pastor did yesterday was uncalled for. It was so embarrassing. Sometimes I can't even stand watching the video. I've so far finished the video just once. And that is that to that. She has to be apologized to. Our educational system has to be looked at. We as a people also have to slow this idea of miracles. We are in a country and in a continent that begs for too many solutions to our many problems, and our leaders and ourselves have not been ready, and up till now are still lagging behind in the course of leadership. And we lack a sense of leadership in the different strata of our lives. We lack leadership in our own personal life, which has to do with discipline. We lack leadership on the national scale, which has to do with our collective effort to see that our country grew. In 2023, 2024, people are still talking about how difficult it is to go to school, when most countries have declared education free, when most persons don't even want to go to school in different climes, and they are being forced to go to school. Yet we are in a country where we don't have basic healthcare system, we don't have good roads, we don't have we don't have basic amenities in our houses. Why wouldn't everybody want to clamor and give God undue praises for things that we as humans can do in relation as co-creators in a world where He has placed us into? It goes to talk about the depth of how we live. We live below too many standards. This is me saying the pastor goofed. This is me saying the woman needs to be apologized to. This is me saying it would have been done better. Scrutiny would have been taken. And if he just judged her by, hearing the way she spoke, and probably also saying there's nothing as a BSc, it also begs the question as to the fact that, do these men of God guess these predictions they give in the name of miracles, in the name of prophecies, or they are stage managed? This is a question we all have to look. So going forward, before you go to a church, before you do all that, know that we have more fakes out there than we have the real guys. And so as we continue in this life, moving forward as a country, basic things should be made basic. Ordinary things should be made ordinary for everybody to have and to hold. And it is only like this we can grow as a people. It is only like this we can move forward. Without this, we will just be wasting our time as a people. We will just be wasting our time. And we will only continue to have this survival instinct. I am not vindicating the pastor in any way. He should have known better. It also calls all of us to be slow in taking decisions. The die is cast. The woman has been humiliated. So now what happens? Take a break, my brother, my sister. Our fathers and our mothers out there. These men of God, some of them will milk you. At least we call them men of God. That's That's even a talk for another day. It's so sad that our climb has been made to look so stupid, made to look as if all of us are clowns. Because indeed, you hear some so-called testimonies and you begin to ask yourself, does this pass for what should be considered a testimony? Does this pass for what should be considered a miracle? Shouldn't these be basic things, things like getting a job, things like working and earning your money, things like rendering services to people and being paid for, things like being promoted in your office? Should this be something that should be seen as so extraordinary? This should be normal phenomenon that everybody should be able to see if the country works. And the country would only work if me and you, alongside our brothers and sisters who occupy different offices, be there from teachers to lecturers to students to accountants to engineers to auditors to police officers to the men in the armed forces, to everybody come together, lay claim to our own sense of responsibility. That's the only way this country would work. That's the only way our continent will move forward. If not, the world will continue to look at us as if we are jokers. So, wrapping up, we still ask the question, are we so certain about the things we tend to hold as certainty? Our belief systems, our sources of truths, what we come to hold as knowledge and all that. I ask these questions because most persons have been wrongly judged. Most persons have been wrongly accused of things they never did, just like this woman. And just as also have been accused of different things at different times in my life that were actually not true. But sometimes it takes a very long time for these things to turn out that, persons are innocent. At least hers is coming out very, very fast. Most of my own cases have been the case that it takes some time before I get to be vindicated. And going forward, I would call all of us to be slow in trying to lay claims to truth. Truth isn't something that is to be made. Truth is. And what is not true is not. These things cannot be changed. Whether you know it, whether you don't know it, it's just what it is. If the woman was not to be a graduate, it would have been the fact that she was not a graduate. But unfortunately, even when the pastor said it was a lie, she was actually a graduate. And that's all that counts here. That's all that matters. His human side, that of the pastor, that's if he embodies any form of divine side, failed him. And it calls to tell us that men of God, as we tend to call them, religious leaders. I want to call them religious leaders rather than calling them men of God, because it places them at a different pedestal than us. They go to toilet. They use the restrooms. They feel hungry. They feel sexual urge. They feel these tensions raging in different degrees. It is because you and I have placed them in so high a place that, they go about doing these things and they go about see themselves as demigods. So sad. May this woman find peace. I can't display the video here. May the woman find peace. Peace in her soul and peace. Peace. I wonder how disturbed Pastor Enenche too would have been by now, except he lacks conscience. He should be very ashamed of himself and ashamed that he allowed circumstance played out in its way. And when he's coming to give an apology, he shouldn't come and start making excuses as to this. I am sorry. This is the format of an apology. Forget the excuses. Forget the distinctions. Forget the clarification and distinguishing between factors that must have led to whatsoever. If he tries to do that, he should also be ready to do this in terms of the different forms of prophecies they tend to give in their churches. And this is a call to Nigerians to open their eyes wide open. Shine your eye, they say it in Nigeria, because we have more fakes out there parading as religious leaders as opposed to what they are supposed to do. It is not the school that betrayed her. It might be in a way, But more or less, it is Pastor Enenche that betrayed her. I am Biringkpa Emeka. See you on the other side.